Are you ready?
Jamie Markley, David Van Camp, and Scott Robbins.
We just become best friends. Yep.
Making sense of it all.
Now I get it.
Van Camp and Robbins Show. I'm David Van Camp. There is Scott Robbins. Jamie Markley is out this week. He'll be back on Monday. Thank you so much for being here. It's another indictment day, Scott.
Yes, it is. Yes, shoot up a rocket. Here we go again.
Here we go. Special counsel Jack Smith, noted Subway fan, if you were paying attention to CNN a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He has indicted Donald Trump again, this time related to his actions after the 2020 election. He's being charged with conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. Basically, Jack Smith is alleging that Donald Trump organized the Capitol riot on January 6th of 2021. And to really boil it down, it's because Trump claimed there was fraud. He was wanting people to look for fraud and rectify the situation, and apparently he broke the law. That's according to Jack Smith, not me. I mean, all of this is painfully obvious to anyone with two brain cells to rub together. I mean, this is a political attack. No other lawmaker would ever be charged with anything like this. And, I mean, what else can you say about it? We know this game. We know what this is all about. You know, it's not a coincidence that all of these indictments are coming down with just over a year before the next presidential election, as the primary process is getting geared up in earnest now. The first Republican debate coming up later this month. I mean, everybody knows what this is. The real disagreement is whether or not it's a good thing. And to me, I think really if you take a step back and take your personal feelings about Donald Trump out of the equation, is this a healthy thing for the Republic or not? And I think most honest people will say no, it's not. And it opens up quite a Pandora's box moving forward because, again, all the liberals that are excited about this, remember, eventually the people that you hate will take power again. Now, you can rest assured that the current crop of Republicans will do absolutely nothing about it, but you might actually finally find somebody who is willing to take it right to you. And Donald Trump could still be president. I mean, you got to remember that.
Yeah, yes.
He very well could still win an election. So
he's currently tied with Slow Joe.
Yeah, I mean, they're
in a dead heat right now.
No matter what, no matter who's running, it's going to be pretty close in 2024. So, again, maybe pump the brakes on this one, but liberals aren't going to do that because they really don't think about what's next very often. It's just relentless attacks against their enemies. That's what it is.
I just can't help when I hear this guy's name, Special Counsel Jack Smith. It's like everybody in the world has either known or worked for a guy named Jack Smith at some point in time in your life.
Right. And I think that's why it's like, all right, we don't want any confusion about it because for a long time, I mean, even up until the day the Mueller report dropped, people were still calling him Robert Mueller.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, we'll get an easy name. All right. We're not going to worry about, David Weiss, whatever. We're not going to worry about hard names. Find me a guy named Jack Smith. Or Tom Jones. Or
his
something
real name
like
is
that.
probably Thaddeus Grabarkowitz, but, they've changed it.
So Trump's lawyer, John Lauro, was on Fox News and said, and really you read the indictment, and I think this is a pretty logical conclusion, that this is about criminalizing Donald Trump's free speech.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to here, because that's the central thesis, is that because he was saying things, he committed fraud. Well, that's not generally how this works, but here is, again, this is John Lauro, the lawyer for Donald Trump in this case.
And what they've really done is invited now a relitigation of 2020, but this time in a criminal court, which is unprecedented. No sitting president has ever been criminally charged for his views, for taking a position. And by the way, is there any doubt there's two systems of justice in the United States? Was Hillary Clinton prosecuted for the Russian hoax? Were those individuals who said, don't worry about the Biden laptop because it's just Russian disinformation, are they being prosecuted? No. Only one person in America is being prosecuted for his political beliefs. And that should send a chill, a warning to every single American who one day wants to get up and say, this is what I believe in. I disagree with the Biden administration, but these are the beliefs I have. Because every person who does that now is subject to a potential criminal case.
Well, and anybody who's a threat to the current regime, yeah, I think that's been demonstrated here because, the comparison to Hillary Clinton, I think, is pretty good. We know that her campaign did shop around this Russian collusion thing, the whole idea of the P tape and all of that. The White House was briefed on it. They knew it was the quote-unquote Clinton operation, and yet the FBI opened up counterintelligence investigations anyway, knowing that it was all a bunch of BS.
Yeah.
And how many people went to jail for that? You're telling me that's legal, but him calling people in Arizona to ask for favors when it comes to investigating potential voter fraud, that's apparently criminal? Give me a freaking break. I mean, that's absurd on its face, that you can manipulate the FBI and the intelligence agencies and you can actually use them to smear and try to take down a political opponent. No problem whatsoever. Perfectly legal. Nothing you can do about it. But in Donald Trump's case, because he had Rudy Giuliani running around the country, with his hair melting off his head.
An idiot.
Because apparently that is this horrible conspiracy to try to defraud the United States.
Yeah, that's the real crime. The hair dye.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, the real crime really is, Rudy Giuliani should be indicted for the bad dye job, honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
Or at least his hairdresser should.
Did you see this guy on the Today Show?
Lauro, the Trump's lawyer? Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't think he was going to get a word in edgewise there.
No,
for a while.
Savannah Guthrie kept in her.
Just went at him, man.
Yeah,
combative, man.
Because to them, they think that Donald Trump is absolutely guilty of whatever, so whatever crime he's accused of, he should go to prison for it. The guy is facing at this point, if convicted on everything that he's facing so far, plus if he gets the maximum sentences allowed, you're talking about like 560 years in prison.
Right.
For what?
Well, Savannah. That's why I asked if that was from the same clip from the same show.
No.
Because that was a clean clip. What I just heard. I don't know if there were any from the Today Show.
That was Brett Baer on Fox News interview.
It was unreal.
Yeah.
She went at him hard, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just kept interrupting him over and over and over again.
Right.
It was wild.
Yeah, it is. All right, in other news, and this is big news too, illegal border crossings jumped 30% in July.
Well, that's impossible. That's a lie. That's a total, complete lie. The border is closed. I've heard it time and time again, and actually the numbers are down. We heard that too.
Yeah, so that's a big setback for the new Biden border plan, which I'm not really sure what that plan was outside of let everybody in. For crying out loud, with the buoys in the Rio Grande in South Texas, they're already suing the state of Texas for putting in this floating border wall thing. And now they got the Fish and Wildlife people suddenly declaring that this species of mussels is endangered, so you got to move the barrier.
Right.
They are doing everything possible to make this crisis worse. And the only reason the numbers kind of went down, at least on paper, is because they just recategorized how people are counted when they come into the country. Hey, you sign up on this app, the Border One or whatever they call it. You sign up on this thing, tell us you're coming, and you can come on in, lickety-split. You can work 2 years, legally at least, in this country.
Yeah, light reflecting off the buoys also increases the ozone layer. This must be stopped.
You know what Greg Abbott should do about those buoys? The guy needs to put solar panels and windmills on them.
Oh, yeah.
And then say, we are generating clean power. Are you against clean power? Put a couple of fans on it, too, to pick up water, to generate.
Sure.
I like the idea, okay?
Yeah.
You just have to do that.
Yes.
And then you just call out the Biden administration for trying to kill Mother Earth. Do you know that it's hot in August in South Texas?
Yeah. Pretty hot.
Want it to get cooler? Well, you better let Greg Abbott put solar panels on the buoys.
On the buoys.
But to your point, when you said, well, that's not possible, right?
Right.
Not possible that we've had a 30%. You're talking about in one sector only, Tucson sector, Arizona, 40,000 people crossing the border. And that's in
Wow.
addition to 50,000 people who just got who got recategorized as legal entrants by the Biden administration. They're cooking the books, and it still looks bad because it is bad. It's a disaster. And to your point, when you say, "Well, it's impossible," I mean, I just want to trot out this little montage from, well, really just the last few months about how the border is secure, sir.
My Republican colleagues claim that the border is open. Is the border open, Mr. Secretary?
No, it is not.
Do you continue to maintain that the border is secure?
Yes, and we are working day in and day out to enhance its security.
The border is secure.
Let me be clear. The border is not open.
And as you see, as I just laid out, our plan is indeed working.
My extreme MAGA Republican colleagues, they create a fictional argument around what's happening at the border.
We're executing a comprehensive strategy to secure our borders.
We should be saying, okay, that's a good job there.
The border is not open, and to say so is not only false, but is really an insult to the brave men and women of the Border Patrol who work every day to keep us safe.
No, it's an insult to the brave men and women of the Border Patrol to tell them that the border is secure. You're not letting them do their jobs, or Biden's not letting them do their jobs. And then when somebody tries to do your job for you, like Governor Abbott, you sue him. It's clear. I mean, they want this to happen because if you didn't want it to happen, what would you do differently? I mean,
the gaslighting is something unparalleled.
Yeah.
They've been saying this for months now.
Mm-hmm.
It's closed, and every month that goes by, there's more crossings. You say, well, they can't be closed. What? Are you telling me what I'm seeing with my own lying eyes is not true?
Yes, that's exactly what they're saying. They know they're lying. You know they're lying. They know that you know they're lying, and they're going to say it anyway.
Yeah, that's just fantastic.
Yeah, it is. It really is. All right, on a lighter note here, the Women's World Cup is going on. Did you set your reminder? Did you know?
Oh, gosh,
Soccer,
dang it.
Yeah.
It's like at 5 o'clock Eastern, though, right?
Yeah, U.S. women's team tied Portugal 0-0 the other day. Yeah.
Yep.
I know. Exciting, right?
Yeah. Yes.
They tied Portugal 0-0, and apparently Portugal almost won, but a kick went wide and hit the goalpost.
Hit the goalpost, bounced off,
and bounced off. And after the game, the women's team was celebrating. They were going and taking pictures. They were laughing. They were being very jovial. And this is funny. Former soccer star Carly Lloyd, not a fan of that in the post-game analysis of all of this. Listen to this, man.
I have never witnessed, and just seeing these images for the first time right now on the desk, I have never witnessed something like that. There's a difference between being respectful of the fans and saying hello to your family, but to be dancing, to be smiling. I mean, the player of the match was that post. You were lucky to not be going home right now.
See, I can't say that because then I'd be a misogynist, he-man, woman hater. But
she can.
She can say it. And I'm just reminded, I mean, I had one of my football coaches in grade school. I'll just say it was in middle school. He was kind of a nut and was like always tried to be this taskmaster and a lot of times would do things that didn't make a lot of sense. But one of his ironclad rules, unless you wanted to spend 30 minutes after every practice the following week doing up-downs in the dirt, if you lost the game, nobody talked on the bus ride home. You did not. You sat there and you thought about what you did. Mm-hmm. If he didn't think you gave enough effort, you didn't talk on the bus. Or you'd be doing up-downs. Now, because I'm a blabbermouth, I did a lot of up-downs after practice.
It's the Moneyball Billy Bean thing.
Yeah.
Is losing fun?
Right.
Is losing fun? Then what are you having fun for?
Right.
Yeah, after he destroys the locker room. Fantastic.
But yeah, you're out there.
I saw them all, though, dancing and selfies and like they'd won something.
Yeah. No,
it was 0-0. And then the conversation went to when Megan Rapinoe entered the game. You know, she's coming off the bench now, David.
Uh-huh.
When Megan Rapinoe entered the game, the energy changed on the field. Yeah. It was nothing. No one scored.
The energy change, usually you're talking about like a goal was scored, some amazing feat was done, but because Portugal kick went clang, that's the only reason you're not packing it up and going home. I mean,
you could feel the energy change when Megan Rapinoe got on the field, though. Okay.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah. Somebody want to score?
Did you win?
Know. No.
No? Then, all right then. Sounds like you need to grab a big old bag of Hush, don't you?
Drink some shut-up juice.
Yeah. Oh, man. Okay, on the Biden corruption, one commentator says, hey, look, this whole phone call thing, just a gray area. We all know it. It's normal. We'll get to that and much more. This is the Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. The Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. I'm David Van Camp. There's Scott Robbins. Jamie Markley is on special assignment this week. He'll be back on Monday. Well, the news just popping now. Pittsburgh synagogue shooter. Remember the guy who shot up and murdered 11 people at the Tree of Life synagogue in Pittsburgh?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Has been sentenced to death. Good. Rotten hell, scumbag.
Yeah,
all right.
go. Yeah.
And so that's the news that was just breaking. All right. Meanwhile, Democrats have settled on the spin that there was nothing inappropriate about Joe Biden being involved with his son's business because, well, just talking to his kid about the weather at business dinners. And there were a lot of burner phones involved, too. You know, if you want to talk to somebody about the weather, you got to use a burner phone.
Well, sure.
Yeah, that's
because if you're wrong, you don't want them knowing your number.
Yeah, well, right. I mean, that's
or how to get a hold of you again. No.
When I was a news reporter and I used to do on the scene severe weather coverage, I always had my burner phone.
Yeah, you never know. Yeah.
Well, I didn't want to run the risk of the federal government, picking up on my conversations about the weather.
That's right.
And the IRS and all sorts of other three-letter agencies. Didn't want to worry about that. So I got my burner phone. Who doesn't have that?
Yeah.
CNN's Dana Bash, by the way, says, this whole thing is just kind of a gray area. Maybe it kind of looks unseemly, but whatever,
Doesn't it appear shady? Does that mean that the president was involved in Hunter Biden's business dealings? No. But we all understand Washington, and we all understand that a lot of these relationships operate in the gray areas intentionally, especially when you have somebody who is either related to a famous person or a powerful person or used to work for a powerful person. You want your clients to know that you can get them on the phone.
Oh.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, except the problem is that gray area existed between a father and his son, and the father is now president of the United States, and at the time was vice president of the United States, and happened to do a few favors for the people who were on the phone calls talking about the weather.
Unbelievable.
Again, I know gaslighting is an overused term, but
it is.
Give me a break, dude. It's a normal course of business and everything in Washington, D.C., of course.
Everybody's dad's got connections in the Ukraine, right?
Yeah, why not? All right. I got a news update on the way. This is the Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. The Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. I'm David Van Camp. There is Scott Robbins. Jamie Markley is out. He'll be back on Monday. Thank you, as always, for being here. Remember that guy? I always forget how to pronounce his last name. I think it's Michael Fanone. He was a Capitol police officer turned crisis actor. He's sort of the wannabe tough guy who treats the Capitol riot like it was storming the beach of Normandy. I mean, it was just over the top dramatics. He's one of the guys that former Representative Adam Kinzinger cried at. You guys held.
Yeah.
You what?
Yeah.
Democracy's not defined by darkest days. So this guy plays a tough guy on TV, and he was like one of the great defenders of democracy. He was brought on to CNN because, of course, he was.
Yeah.
To react to the news that Donald Trump has been indicted again, and this time it is for his role in the violence on that dark, dark day. And let me tell you, man, there's no hysteria in this statement whatsoever.
Proud I felt to be an American at that moment, much in the way that I did when I learned that our military had killed Osama bin Laden.
What?
What? Right. Donald Trump being indicted for claiming that an election was stolen from him is the same as Osama bin Laden, the mastermind of 9/11, being killed by SEAL Team 6, yes.
The jubilance and joy he felt then, he now feels again.
Yes.
On the 67th time that Trump's been indicted on something, right? Okay.
Yeah, this guy.
Got it.
I just felt incredibly proud.
These two seem comparable to you?
Incredibly proud to have been.
I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but why that comparison in particular?
I believe they're comparable.
How?
In what way?
Absolutely. Osama bin Laden was a terrorist who committed a horrific act against American people and against our republic. And I believe that Donald Trump is a terrorist who committed horrific acts against the American people.
You can imagine that is a very eyebrow-raising statement. The DOJ, as
Other
you know,
than that, what I say or what Republican lawmakers say is just, to take up time on cable news.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. Well, anyway, isn't it interesting that all of the hashtag resistance heroes turn out to be absolutely insane?
Yes.
Like Alexander Vindman and his crazy wife, they're nuts that he was this brave whistleblower. Oh, wait, turns out he's a crazy person. Michael Avenatti, he's going to help bring down Donald Trump. Oh, wait, actually, he's a fraudster and a bad guy. I mean,
and, of course, look at the political career trajectory of those. I mean, you could start with Adam Kinzinger.
Yeah. Well,
is he even still on CNN, by the way?
Yeah, I think he is.
I don't hear anything he's doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't watch CNN, so.
No, I don't, but I mean, it's still like one of those things where you'd think he would say something so inflammatory it would catch the attention, but apparently he hasn't even mastered that skill yet.
Yeah, no, well,
golly, man.
Probably because nobody cares what he really has to say.
I felt the same way about the killing of Osama bin Laden as I did on Donald Trump being indicted.
Yes.
Dude.
Yeah, you need
some time on the couch.
Absolutely, or some time away from the bottle or whatever else you're putting into your body.
Smokes, man.
For mind-altering experiences, man.
God.
All right, switching gears. This is a weird story, but we've talked about it a little bit when it was popping initially. You might have heard about the diary of Joe Biden's youngest child, Ashley Biden.
Oh, boy.
It was left behind at a rental property. Apparently she was there as part of rehab, and someone turned it over to Project Veritas. Project Veritas didn't publish it, but they let the feds know that they had it in their possession. The DOJ wound up investigating them over stolen property claims, which led to an FBI raid, which is wild to me. So the diary had a lot of crazy stuff in it, including Ashley Biden writing that her dad took inappropriate showers with her and that she would sometimes shower late at night to avoid him walking in on her. And again, don't know if that's true. And up until this point, it was never really fully confirmed that it was, in fact, her diary, although now it has been, because Project Veritas released a phone call that they had with her in October of 2020. It included Ashley Biden herself saying it was her stuff and she wanted it back.
I don't want to have to get Secret Service involved in this, right? Because it's a whole process. But, I am Ashley Biden. It is my stuff. So if you could just give all of that over, I would really appreciate it. I know you sent a picture to my husband with a camera and a few other things that are mine as well. So that would be really great. Where is a good place for him to meet you?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want this to be construed as an attack on Ashley Biden. I mean, obviously she's had her struggles, whether or not this particular allegation is true. I don't know if it's true. It could be that she was just writing it, or we don't know the fuller content. I have no idea. No idea. It certainly sounds creepy to me, and I don't know why you would write it in a diary if it wasn't something that was true, because your diary is something that you're just writing to yourself most of the time. But man, every time something like this pops up, I do wonder, where are Republican lawmakers asking the questions about Joe? Where I know that there have been a whole lot of stupid little speeches on Capitol Hill and whatnot, and at some point we're going to open up an inquiry of impeachment, blah, 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 blah. But I mean, come on, the left highlighted a woman named Julie Swetnick, who claimed that Brett Kavanaugh ran gang rape parties in high school. It wasn't true. but the left ran with it anyway because, well, we assume Brett Kavanaugh's a bad guy. And it is just really frustrating to me that apparently we don't have anybody on Capitol Hill willing to take any of this kind of conversation on. I don't know if that is out of respect for the president's daughter, saying, well, we don't want to drag her into this. Let's stick with the corruption stuff. Maybe, I guess, but get the ball rolling on something, guys, because the left is playing a different game than
No, they are. And there was a time when family members were pretty much off limits.
Yeah.
I mean, they just were. And everybody treated it accordingly. But those rules are gone. That doesn't happen anymore.
No.
I mean, Ivanka Trump wasn't attacked?
Yeah,
No.
well, and again, it's not an attack on Ashley Biden at all. I mean, if this is true, then she is a victim.
Well,
there's
yeah.
no question about that. She's a victim, not a perpetrator, not somebody involved in wrongdoing. She was victimized by her dad, if it's true.
Also, again, this is with Hunter and Ashley Biden. This is a man who portrays himself in the public as the family guy, old sweet Joe.
Yeah.
You know, and again, this goes back to the character of the guy saying these things, and we'll see.
Yeah.
But they'll leave it alone. I'm sure they will. There'll be no coverage.
They probably will, probably because they know Joe Biden's got dirt on all of them, too.
Yeah, probably.
They don't want to open up that can of worms, do they?
It's the mafia, man.
It is. All right, that time of the show, we do this every day at this time. It's called What's Your Story? We go around and we talk about something that maybe caught your attention. Might not be the biggest news story of the day, but you wanted to share it with the rest of the class. Scott, what's your story today?
Are you familiar with a woman named Amy McGrath?
Is she the veteran who ran for Senate?
Ran for Senate in Kentucky against Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
Got killed.
Yeah.
And does a lot of posting now for liberal organizations.
Yeah.
I thought we'd moved on past the whole woke kids BS, but apparently we haven't at all. I mean, the leftists still feel like they need to use the kids to make some sort of political statement. Case in point, this came from Amy McGrath. My 7-year-old daughter today. Mom, I don't get why all the presidents were all boys, no girls at all. Why is that? Amy says, where do I begin? Your 7-year-old daughter said this. Right. And by the way, just for the record, David, let me say, that child has no right to gender anybody.
That's right. You don't know.
Damn them. You don't know.
Maybe Woodrow Wilson identified as a woman.
You don't know that.
You have no idea. And if he identified as such, then he is a woman. And you have to respect that. Come hell or high water.
So maybe there were women presidents.
Maybe there have been. It's like, I always love it when they're talking about that weirdo who is second in charge of HHS right now. Rachel Levine, the morbidly obese guy who thinks he's a woman.
Good woman, yeah.
Who is in second command of our nation's healthcare system. Yeah,
that's right.
Cool. I always think when they clarify and say the first openly transgender person to hold that, like, are there closet transgender people really? I mean,
wasn't J. Edgar Hoover wearing women's clothes?
Well, I assume, like, at some point, if you are identified as transgender, you will live that experience. I don't know. It just sort of seems pretty obvious if somebody is walking around in a dress.
You know, David, back in my day, they were called cross-dressers. And you'd see them occasionally while you were out to eat.
Right.
And generally speaking, the ones I saw were professors at the university.
Yeah.
Not...
All right.
That's the true story, man.
Yeah. It's What's Your Story? The maybe not the biggest story of the day, but something that caught your attention. We do it every day at this time on the show. The incandescent light bulb has been banned. It has gone into effect.
Yeah.
Bulbs will have higher LED light standards, which will supposedly save the average American $100 a year. I don't know if I'm just buying the wrong bulbs, but man, those don't last as long. The LED bulbs.
They don't seem to. No. Now I've been told they last longer.
That's what I'm always told. Like, you won't have to replace this for 5 years or whatever, and then it burns out after 6 months or something.
Yeah, I've replaced many LED bulbs.
Yeah, I don't.
You know, the thing is, I couldn't find anything but LED bulbs the last time I was looking.
Yeah.
And this was before the ban was put in place.
Yeah,
I mean, they phased these things out.
Yeah, I think that's really what happened here, because for the administrative state, there's been an ongoing war against things that work, And so this has been going on since, the Bush administration? They've been trying to phase this out,
right?
The incandescent light bulb. And so now apparently all the pieces are in place, and it has been banned.
The black market for them now, man. Open up the trunk, you can get your handgun and your light bulb in the same place.
You want some full flow toilets too? I know a guy.
I got those too.
You want that?
Yeah.
Low flow toilets, man. It
Oh
sucks.
my gosh.
The war on things that work. I want to give credit. I saw that
That's
on
good.
National
I like
Review.
that. No, I like it.
Yeah, I really like that one.
Yeah.
All right, we got a news update on the way. This is the Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. The Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. I'm David Van Camp. There is Scott Robbins. Jamie Markley is on special assignment. He'll be back on Monday. This is unbelievable, man. So we mentioned this a while back. Carly Lloyd was a legendary women's soccer player. Is now doing commentary for Fox Sports. And after the women's national team in the World Cup festivities tied 0-0 with Portugal, she was not impressed at all with the fact that they were jumping around and celebrating.
Right.
It's like, dude, nobody scored a goal.
No.
And the only reason you didn't lose is because Portugal had a shot that went a little wide and clanged off the goalpost. And this is what she said, by the way.
I have never witnessed, and just seeing these images for the first time right now on the desk, I have never witnessed something like that. There's a difference between being respectful of the fans and saying hello to your family, but to be dancing, to be smiling. I mean, the player of the match was that post. You were lucky to not be going home right now.
So I think a lot of people can appreciate that because that, look, that's no different than what a lot of commentators will say about a football team, an NFL team, or a baseball team. Someone completely blows it, and they'll say that. They'll say something to that effect, like, I can't believe that X, Y, or Z happened, etc. But apparently this was not good because you have to treat the women's club with kids' gloves. Sort of undercuts the message of strong, independent women, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, they want equal, then let's be equal.
You got to have the criticism, too, and
Absolutely.
I thought that was pretty fair criticism.
So did I.
New York Times published an opinion piece. The former U.S. women's national team star, Carly Lloyd, criticized the team after its draw in the World Cup. Her legacy was always complicated. It's not, I mean, and then they go in this deep dive on all, on her complaining about not having enough playing time, etc.
Right.
My only question is this really supposed to be a controversy here? I thought it was kind of a funny thing to say, the whatever, the post was the player of the game and whatnot.
Right. It was funny.
Yeah, it was
and it was accurate.
Right, it's accurate. Yeah, you don't celebrate a tie.
No.
You just kind of say, okay, well, we survived, we lived to see another day, but that's about it. You're not jumping up and down hollering, man. It's like those. It's like in the NFL, you get a defensive end who gets a sack. His team is down like 28-0.
Yeah.
But then he starts doing his little, celebration dance. You're like, dude, just go back to the huddle, all right?
No, right. You're down 12-0, and you hit a solo home run, and you Cadillac it.
Right.
No, you're going to get knocked on your fanny the next time up, and you deserve it.
Right.
Stop acting that way, you idiot.
After you've already amassed 3 errors in the game.
Right. You put your head down and run the bases. You're down 12-0.
Just do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But apparently, it's supposed to be complicated now.
No, it's not complicated.
It's really not all that.
No, it's not.
I mean, golly, man, people are sensitive. They really are. That leads me to this. I saw a poll out there about can people take a joke these days? And I think most people can.
Yeah,
Far-left liberals cannot take a joke because nothing's funny.
There's nothing funny. The only thing funny is the misfortune of people they disagree with politically.
Right. 35% of Americans, according to YouGov, say, people get offended way too often. 22% say the real problem is people just make too many off-color jokes these days.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, man, because there's a lot of jokes that used to be okay within my lifetime that you can't make anymore.
Dude, there's a lot of people that simply don't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't because they don't want to wade into it. I mean, dude.
And the opportunity we're missing as a populace of being knee-slappingly funny all the time, we've lost out. Because people are afraid to say it.
But this is one of the reasons why guys like Bill Burr and Dave Chappelle have been so popular, because they go where you're not allowed to go anymore.
Right, and do it and don't care.
Right, exactly. And people are starved for that. I really do believe that.
I agree.
All right, this is the Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show.
Are you ready?
Jamie Markley, David Van Camp, and Scott Robbins.
We just become best friends. Yep.
Making sense of it all.
Now I get it.
And having some fun.
Lighten up, Francis.
This is the Markley, Van Camp.
I'm David Van Camp. There's Scott Robbins. Jamie Markley is on special assignment. He'll be back on Monday. So special counsel Jack Smith has indicted Donald Trump again, this time related to his actions after the 2020 election. So to boil this down in simple terms, because Trump claimed there was fraud and asked people to look for it, apparently he broke the law. That's what they're claiming. Of course, this is an all-out assault to shut down a guy running for president. All right, the timing of it is obvious. They're waiting until the election cycle to get this stuff rolling. Here we go.
You know what's weird?
Go ahead.
I thought for a while there that they were going to try to improve his chances of being the nominee because they felt he was easier to beat than DeSantis or anyone else running that could run against Joe. And then all of a sudden I start to see the polls and, Joe's hanging around at 42. He's at 42. I'm thinking to myself, maybe they really feel like he could beat Joe. Oh, and now it's starting to spook them a little bit. Now they got to go after him even harder.
Well, I think that both things can be true at the same time. You want to pump him up because for the primary, because obviously the guy has seen his polling among Republican voters go up ever since this witch hunt started to come to and start to sort of congeal.
Right.
But I also think if they keep the guy, they know that if they keep the guy in court long enough, one, like you pointed out yesterday, Scott, not going to have a lot of money for campaigning.
No.
I mean, you're already talking, what, $30 million that he spent on legal fees? They're bleeding him dry. And they're going to bleed the campaign dry. That's the goal here, and to damage him as much as possible. And certainly Trump could still beat Biden. But I think they are banking on the fact that if the guy's in court constantly getting updates to the American people about this, they feel like that's a good way of beating him. Nobody else in the Republican primary field is subject to this stuff right now.
One of our listeners just suggested that if Trump really wants to make all this stuff go away, he should run as a Democrat. Not a bad idea.
And just and change his name to Dawn, D-A-W-N.
Right.
And start wearing a dress.
Right, there you go.
And then they'll love him. Then he's going to be a hero.
The darling of the left, yes.
Right, exactly. I think it's interesting that last November, Joe Biden admitted that this is what this was. This is the federal government using every tool that it has available to it to try to kneecap a presidential candidate. Because the last time they tried to do it, it didn't work. Right. In 2016, when they sicked the FBI on him, it didn't work. So in this case, they're thinking, okay, well, if everything's out in the open, if everything's in a court of law, it won't really matter. We'll be able to dissuade enough people from voting for him because it just looks bad. To just say, well, he's under federal indictment in multiple jurisdictions. Oh, my gosh. And then you got state level and city level and all this stuff going on. So obviously Donald Trump's a criminal. He's a bad guy, blah, blah, blah. And then after the election, who cares, right? Will they send him to jail? I don't know. But it just kind of seems like the play is really about 2024 and making sure that Donald Trump is weak enough that he will not win the presidency. That's the goal, and you can't convince me otherwise. Right. And again, just a flashback here from last November, Joe Biden talking about this. The setup is, what do you say to foreign leaders who are worried that Donald Trump may take office again? And here's what he said.
How do you reassure them if that is the reason for their questioning, that the former president will not return, or that his political movement, which is still very strong, will not once again take power in the United States?
Well,
We just have to demonstrate that he will not take power by, if he does run, making sure he, under legitimate efforts of our Constitution, does not become the next president again.
There you go. This was an accusation in search of a crime with Donald Trump. And that's what it's always been when they, going all the way back to Russian collusion. It was this idea that you could convince, all the left needed to do was try to convince enough people that this guy was compromised by a foreign adversary. And now it's like, well, we got to convince the American public that he's probably guilty of something. And so let's flood the zone with all of these legal challenges. One of them will stick. I'm convinced of that. I mean, this trial is going to be held in D.C., right? I mean, the guys. Yeah. I mean, Trump, legally, just from the courtroom perspective, the guy's hosed because the Justice Department is going to throw every resource it has and already has thrown a ton of resources towards prosecuting him. Then you get him in front of maybe Biden sympathetic jurors, and boom. There were some who said that what's that guy's name? Steve Bannon.
Yeah.
His trial over contempt of Congress or whatever, that was sort of the trial balloon to see if they could actually convict somebody who had a connection to Donald Trump. And I think that's proving to be true, that that really was the trial run here. Mm-hmm. And so we are in for some dark, dark days. I thought it was kind of funny here, hearing Chris Hayes, the liberal commentator on MSNBC. He's the dude who looks like what would happen if Lizzo sat down on Rachel Maddow.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. That's a descriptor right there, man.
Yeah. All right. He came within inches, actually, of coming to the same conclusion that this is the timing of this is suspect. He's looking at it from the wrong angle, but man, he is so close to actually seeing the truth and seeing the situation for what it is. Check this out.
I think this is an indictment of Merrick Garland, because we all saw the crimes committed, and we know that there was no predicated investigation in the Department of Justice. We sat here 1 year ago at this table, and we watched 85% of the facts present here, I would say, somewhere in that range, laid out before the nation.
Because the congressional investigation.
Yes, the congressional investigation did an incredible job. And in fact, I think this indictment reads as an endorsement of their work in many ways. The reason that we're now, the fast track question is, we're now in a tighter space a year later about a guy who's running for president to stay out of prison. He is literally running for his freedom than we would have been a year ago. And there's hindsight 2020, and Merrick Garland has a very difficult job, and I would grant him that. But I do think that, this makes me think that the year when there was apparently not very much happening in the Department of Justice about a criminal conspiracy that happened on live television, as we all watched, was maybe not the greatest thing.
He is so close. He's almost there.
Yeah.
But his thing is, well, now there's not enough time. And I think, but what he gets at is a central question. If this is something that you're willing to do in a court of law, that you're willing to prosecute a former president, and you believe so strongly that you're going to take it to trial, there were no new discoveries here in the indictment that was unsealed yesterday. You knew all of this. The question was it a crime or not? And so they've decided that, yes, it was criminal, and we're going to prosecute this. But they could have done it a year ago. The only reason they're doing it now is because they want to meddle in the election.
Well, and that and the fact that everything else has failed.
I mean, I suppose, but they haven't really been trying to go after Donald Trump in a court of law until just a few months ago when he was indicted for the first time.
Well, it's going to be fun.
Yeah. So, anyway, I mentioned Lizzo. This is a disgusting story,
dude.
man.
How far are you going to go into this thing? Because I pulled the story today too, and I'm like, how far do I want to go with this?
Lizzo is a pop star. She's the one that is very large, very rotund, and likes to twerk and whatnot on stage. It's kind of gross to me. I like some of her songs, but it's kind of. I'll just say this: I wouldn't want to sit in an airplane seat after her, because I've seen her wearing the thong and all that stuff.
She doesn't want you ever to talk about her weight.
Yeah, well,
she's totally comfortable with it, and you should be too.
Yeah, you should
celebrate her. Actually,
she's being sued now by former dancers that traveled with her for, well, one of the reasons is because she body shamed one of them.
Isn't that something?
Apparently, which is very fascinating because she always talks about, like, yeah, I'm a big girl. Like you said, I'm comfortable with it, and you should celebrate it too.
Yes,
celebrate my morbid obesity.
That's
all
right.
Yeah. So a couple of backup dancers, 3 of them actually, claiming the lawsuit that they were fired while the third plaintiff, Noelle Rodriguez is her name, resigned over Lizzo's stunning behavior. One of them had to do with a trip to Amsterdam in February. They say that Lizzo invited them out for a night on the town, which ended in the red light district. Of course, prostitution is a big tourist draw there. Mm-hmm. The lawsuit states that things quickly got out of hand. Lizzo began inviting cast members to take turns touching the nude performers. Like you said, how deep do you want to get into it?
I don't know, man. I don't know how you might be able to phrase this thing in a way that you know what I'm talking about, but you won't know exactly what it is. Yeah,
I'll say that
fruit was involved.
Yes, perhaps
right? Fruit was involved.
We'll say it was a pelvically consumed banana,
elongated fruit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that the dancers were told to eat a banana that, yes.
And they didn't get from the store.
They didn't get that.
No.
No, they didn't pick that up at Walmart.
No,
okay?
they did not.
And then also catching certain implements that had been jettisoned from the bodies of some of these performers.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's gross, man. I felt like I had to take a shower after reading some of these accusations.
Man.
So, ugh. I read this story and suddenly I just sort of clam up, huh? It's just.
Well, I mean, this is one of those stories where, like, in the early '70s, if this was Led Zeppelin,
mm-hmm.
you'd believe it right away. You go, "Oh, of course."
Yeah.
And they talk about it, but she's all this virtuous, I'm here for the big girls, and big girls don't be shy, and love your body, and blah blah blah, and all this garbage. And then she takes them out to a strip joint with hookers and does all sorts of tawdry things. And man,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, again, who knows if it is true? I don't know.
I'll just say this: do not, under any circumstances, try out her recipe for a banana split. Okay?
No,
just don't.
No.
You're going to be very disappointed.
Don't make banana bread with it either.
No, don't do that.
No.
You want a Lizzo fruit salad? Nope. Not even a little bit.
I'd like a Lizzo, please. Yikes.
This is the Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. The Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. I'm David Van Camp. There's Scott Robbins. Jamie Markley is out. He'll be back on Monday. Kamala Harris is a little afraid to have a conversation about Florida's history curriculum. Ron DeSantis threw out the challenge there, saying, hey, if you want to talk about our black history curriculum, and particularly about slavery, let's have that debate. Let's have that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Kamala Harris won't do it. Instead, she settled on lying about what it says, claiming that Florida is teaching kids that slavery was good, that it had redeeming qualities, and blah, blah, blah. When that is not at all what the curriculum says. It does talk about gaining skills that then enslaved people were able to utilize to adapt and overcome their terrible circumstances, which is actually standard in a whole lot of lessons around the country. But they have just decided to lie to people about it, and it works because, well, media is in the pocket of the Democrat Party. Ron DeSantis, again, asked her to talk about it, and, well, she responded during a speech. This strong lady, Kamala Harris, she just doesn't even want to talk about it. Doesn't want to have the conversation.
No.
Well, I'm here in Florida. And I will tell you, there is no round table, no lecture, no invitation we will accept to debate an undeniable fact.
Oh, God.
There were no redeeming qualities of slavery.
Yeah.
And as I said last week when I was again here in Florida, we will not stop calling out and fighting back against extremist so-called leaders who try to prevent our children from learning our true and full history.
Who's doing that?
Well, that's what they do. They do this all the time. They create monsters that don't exist. They always do this.
Yeah, I mean, it's the straw man argument.
No, they do it all the time.
So they want to teach that slavery had silver linings and whatnot, and it was beneficial in some instances. That's not at all what it says.
They're banning books. They're, list goes on and on. Don't say gay.
Right.
I mean,
That's
that was
true.
a complete fabrication.
I am kind of surprised. They tried, some of the activists in Florida and around the country actually tried to turn "don't say slave" into a thing.
Okay.
And I'm glad that it seems like most people haven't really caught on to that.
No.
I mean, certainly not a lot of news outlets have really caught on to that.
No.
Probably because deep down everybody knows that they're just lying about the state of Florida because, well, that's what they do. They lie. Anytime something happens in a red state, they lie about it. I mean, but you're right. I mean, they're banning books. Okay, well, Kamala, let's have story time. You read from any of these books that parents have found objectionable.
Well, and also, you can go to any bookstore anywhere in Florida and buy those books. I mean, if you want to buy them, they're available.
Mm-hmm. You can
Nobody's
order off
banning
Amazon.
anything.
Right.
What they said was, we were not going to do this with children.
No.
K through third grade. We're not going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
All right? And this turned into banning books.
Mm-hmm.
And it's ridiculous. Like I say, you want to read Lawn Boy? There's plenty of copies out there. You can get them in Florida.
Or this book is gay. If you want to learn about the finer points of a Cleveland steamer, then yeah,
right. Then it's right in there. In fact, it's a whole chapter devoted to it.
But
yes.
but you probably shouldn't hand that over to a third grader. And
and that's all anybody was ever saying to begin with.
And I'll tell you, man, if this show had a stunt guy with a death wish, what I would love to do is go to any playground in America and start handing out copies of pages from these books that are supposedly banned and watch how quickly they get their asses kicked.
Oh, sure.
Because, dude, I would flip the hell out if somebody's handing out to my kid pages from these books. It's not a book ban. It's saying, no, this is obviously objectionable material. Anyway, this is the Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins show. Biggest story of the day, I guess it's Indictment Day Part 3 now for Donald Trump, and any day now it could be Indictment Day Part 4.
By the time you get to the third sequel, usually it's bad.
Yeah, it's. I don't know if this one's going to be a prequel or like a side story. I'm not really sure what the main characters will be. I assume Donald Trump will make a cameo at least. But
well, the Orange Man's the villain again.
Or is this going to be I guess the Fulton County, Georgia thing would be like one of the Marvel Cinematic Universe shows on Disney Plus.
Right.
We'll have like Indictment Plus for all of your needs. You got the sideshow trials and all that. It's nonsense. That and a news update coming up. The Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins show. I'm David Van Camp. There is Scott Robbins, Jamie Markley on special assignment. All right, I'm just going to give you this headline. We will get to the meat of the story in a few minutes, I promise. But I love the headline, Scott. All right?
Okay, yep.
Zoo in China denies speculation that its bears are actually humans in disguise.
Oh, dude, I saw this thing.
All right, we will get to that in just a few minutes, okay?
Oh, my gosh.
I promise you. All right.
Okay, this is wild, man.
All right. Meanwhile, Democrats have settled on the spin that there was nothing inappropriate about Joe Biden being involved with his son's business because, well, just talking to his kid about the weather at business dinners using burner phones. Yeah, nothing suspicious about it. Just normal, right? Whatever, right?
Yeah.
Here's Representative Jim Himes on MSNBC talking about this. It's remarkable, man.
The Republicans, it's just this internal primal urge to visit retribution on the Democrats. And the problem is they can't find a fact. So, look, is there problematic questions about Hunter Biden? And I said something that shouldn't be controversial, which is that if you committed a crime, you should be held accountable. But have they pointed to anything to suggest that Joe Biden engaged in corrupt behavior? No. And on the contrary, Hunter Biden's business partner said, yeah, he was on some phone calls talking about the weather. Exchanging pleasantries. Is that in the category of, presidential family members that are problematic? Billy Carter, Hugh Rodham, maybe it's in that category, but it is sure and absolutely not a crime.
So Donald Trump broke the law apparently because he challenged results of an election.
Yeah.
But Joe Biden denying that he ever spoke to his kid about business and then being caught in a lie on that part. And then you've got this multi-layered LLC scam where millions of dollars is being funneled to different Biden family members from foreign entities. I don't know, some dots that may have been connected involving Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Romania, and whatnot, and U.S. policy while Joe Biden was vice president. But hey, man, just rest assured, he was only talking about the weather. Because who doesn't, when they're in a business meeting with a bunch of prospective clients, call up somebody just to talk about the weather, right? Everybody does that. That's standard operating procedure, right? I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting down with a program director or a station manager or something, and I said, hold on a second. Let me call my dad because I want to know what the weather is in Houston, okay?
Yeah.
That's what I know that they're not in Houston. I know that we're, in Romania or something. But, hey, I want to really know what the weather's like.
This just...
It's unbelievable is what it is.
Say hi to my buddies, Dad.
Yeah, right. Everybody knows what this was, okay? Come on. All right. Meanwhile, yes, as I mentioned, Special Counsel Jack Smith has indicted Donald Trump again. And in short, it's because Trump claimed there was fraud, and he says that broke the law because you encouraged people to try to figure out ways to expose voter fraud and whatnot.
Yes.
Now, a spokesman for Donald Trump said it was reminiscent of Nazi Germany, Soviet Russia, and other authoritarian regimes. And you know who was offended by that?
Who's that?
The guy that you called the original haircut, Jake Tapper of CNN.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Jake took offense to this.
Can't believe. Why would they do that?
Obviously, comparing this to Nazi Germany is beyond the pale in terms of offensiveness and ignorance. Can you give us? I'd like to know what exactly the person said. First of all, who is the one issuing
this? Is coming from a Trump spokesperson. It's a lengthy statement, but this
just
part.
Read us the Nazi Germany.
This part here is.
Yeah, just read us the Nazi.
Just get to the Nazi Germany part. Yeah.
Yeah, beyond the pale. Beyond the pale. Yeah, man, it'd be terrible to compare a political opponent or a situation happening in America to Nazi Germany, right? Unless, of course, the media is talking about Donald Trump.
It was not just the racial, I should say racial, the Hitlerian.
Adolf Hitler. Hitler. Outside of the Civil War, World War II, and including 9/11, this may be the most cataclysmic event the country's ever seen.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. All right. But now you're going to get the vapors because somebody invoked Nazi Germany. Now, you know my long-standing policy, all right? When it comes to the Nazis or Hitler, if you're thinking about making a comparison that doesn't literally involve genocide, then take a breath, count to 10, and don't. Don't make that comparison.
No, don't do it.
No, it just don't. Stay away from it. It's dumb. You sound like a hysterical fool. But
I might add to that the Antichrist too, because that used to be a big one.
Oh, the Antichrist. Oh,
yeah. Everybody wasn't. There's been like 73 Antichrists,
right? And now
in my lifetime, yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah. Meanwhile, in the economic news, this was pretty shocking to me. MetLife Investment Management said that by 2030, 40% of single-family rentals in the U.S. will be owned by institutional investors. That is Wall Street. Banks and investment firms will own 40% of the rental market. And this has been happening really, it picked up in earnest during the pandemic because, they saw an opportunity to buy, to invest in homes. And you have outlets institutions like BlackRock buying up entire neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Now, this is a big deal because if you've ever lived in a small town or in a college town, you know what it's like when you're trying to rent an apartment and there's only like 3 companies that provide apartments. It's hard to find a good deal on a rental because, well, it's price fixing, essentially. Nobody's going to really undercut the other guy, and you don't really have a whole lot of other opportunities because there's no competition in the market. And so in 7 years, or now less than 7 years, they're saying 40% of rental properties will be owned by, well, Wall Street investors. Ooh, that's not good, man. I don't know what the remedy to that is, but I know it also got exacerbated because of the stupid eviction moratorium that in some jurisdictions was still going on as of this summer. So the small guy, the little guy who just has a couple of properties as a retirement investment, as sort of a windfall once they stop working full time, and as an investment opportunity, that guy got shoved out of the market in favor of Wall Street bros. It's a dangerous situation that's being set up with housing in this country. And again, I don't know what the remedy legislatively would be. I don't know that the federal government can really do anything about it, but that's something that to me needs to be talked about more and addressed more, because we don't want to get into a situation where it's like you own nothing, and all of your entire future is in the hands of some coked up Wall Street bros. That's not a good place to be. We're already way in too deep in that arena.
Well, yeah, and did I give you this Corey? Did we talk about Corey Bush yesterday? I forgot.
No, we didn't.
Okay. Well, I'm going to bring it up today.
Yeah,
I'm going to bring it up today because talking about a guy who had a rental property.
Yeah.
And Corey Bush, and you know what she wants to do? She wants to have an initiative to provide the unhoused with housing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who's going to pay for all this. I don't know how this is magically going to happen, but she's going to reintroduce legislation. And I've got a quick story about her, and we'll get to it coming up.
All right. So yeah, we'll get to that. All right. I mentioned at the beginning of the segment a story that I'm currently obsessed with. And the headline reads: Zoo in China denies speculation that its bears are actually humans in disguise.
Yes.
So there was footage out of this zoo in eastern China of a Malayan sun bear, I should say.
Sun bears, yes.
Yeah, standing on its hind legs and kind of waving to a crowd.
Right.
And so a conspiracy theory blossomed out of that it's actually a guy in a bear suit.
Have you seen the video?
I have seen the video.
Okay, and what was your initial reaction?
That looks like a dude in a bear suit.
In a bear suit. Yeah. I saw it on the Today Show. Yeah. They ran it on the Today Show.
As the guy stands up, or as the quote-unquote bear stands up, like the back of its skin kind of wrinkles down like it's a party suit. Now, the zoo itself says no, because a human couldn't survive. It would be too hot in there for them to live in the suit. And I'll just tell you, as a Chick-fil-A cow suit wearing veteran,
David did this.
Yeah, I did that. They got fans in those things, I did it in Houston. I was standing out on the damn highway handing out coupons in the suicide lane, wearing that dumb cow suit. It was hot as hell, man. But I lived. I survived.
But did you notice also there was no butt on this thing?
Yeah, no butt.
It was like this flat. It was a weird looking, but then it got down and walked around on all fours. And when I saw it on all fours, I'm like, well, maybe it is a bear.
Mm-hmm.
But the more I saw this, I'm like, come on, man. He's waving? They teach bears how to wave?
Now there was somebody, a wildlife biologist, who says, well, no, that's a sun bear for sure, because sometimes they do things that kind of look like human antics, because they do stand up on their hind legs, and they tend to be a little thinner than like a grizzly bear or something.
Oh, yeah, he was
like
very
that.
thin, yeah.
And so they're saying, no, that is actually kind of what the bear looks like. So I don't think it was a guy in a suit. I'm all in on the idea that this was a dude in a bear suit. Come on, man.
And it wasn't even like a good bear suit in my mind.
It was, it was like they bought it at the last Party City available.
The Halloween shop was, they were loading everything up for the year, and this guy bought it. I mean, it didn't even look good.
No.
I mean, that was the thing. And it was very comfortable standing on its hind legs. And maybe it really was.
No,
I mean,
man.
the people that were at the zoo didn't seem to be bothered by it.
No.
They all thought it was a real bear. That's my feeling anyway.
Reminded me of a couple of other stories like that. There are other zoos in China that have been criticized for dyeing dogs to look like wolves.
Yes.
They
they've
dye
done
them
that.
gray and say, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's a wolf," and it's like, no, it's not. That's a husky. That's not. That's no wolf, man. That's a dog.
That's a Siamese cat. That isn't a lion.
Or that one zoo in Egypt. Remember that story from a few years ago, where they had a zebra at the zoo, but it wasn't actually a zebra. What it was a donkey that they had painted black and white.
Black and white, yeah. Passed it off as.
Said, "Here's our donkey."
Golly. But apparently this thing has got like 10 million views.
Yeah.
And people going back and forth on whether it's a real bear or a guy in a suit.
Yeah, this is now my second favorite conspiracy theory of all time. It's that it was a guy in a bear suit, and my first, of course, is that Stevie Wonder's not blind.
I know. We know that.
Stevie Wonder is not actually blind. He's been faking it his entire life. And if you can go to, there's a lot of rabbit holes on the internet you can go down, and you'll see that I'm right in believing this completely.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'm fairly convinced it was Stevie Wonder in that bear suit. I don't know if you knew.
Oh my gosh, it was
singing for once in my life. I mean,
it looked like some of those low rent circuses that come through.
Yeah, right.
It's like, Steve's Circus, one night only at the mall parking lot or something.
All right. Coming up, 58% of pet owners would do this for their pet. It's ridiculous, but we'll talk about it. This is the Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. The Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. I'm David Van Camp. There is Scott Robbins. Jamie Markley is out today. So, of course, we all know Special Counsel Jack Smith has indicted Donald Trump again, this time for trying to overturn the 2020 election. Now, his lawyer's out there reacting to the news and reacting to Jack Smith's insistence that they have a speedy trial. John Lauro is the lawyer for Donald Trump in this case, tells the Today Show that, the speedy trial thing, that's not really on the table here because we need time to prepare. It's kind of absurd. When he could get a word in edgewise with Savannah Guthrie on the Today Show, this is what he had to say.
The special counsel said yesterday he would like to see a speedy trial. That is 70 days from now. Are you ready to go? Would you like to see a speedy trial?
Well, the speedy trial right is the defendant's right, not the government's right. So we're entitled to understand what the charges are. We're entitled to do our own investigation. The special counsel or the Justice Department, the Biden Justice Department, has had 3 years to investigate this. To take President Trump to trial in 90 days, of course, is absurd. The question is, why do they want to do that? If you want to seek justice, then you need to offer President Trump an opportunity to get a hold of all the evidence and understand what the facts are.
Yeah, but it's not really about justice. It's about kneecapping a political rival of the big guy, of Joe Biden.
I like the way they dragged the Biden thing out for 5 years, and they went this one in 90 days.
No kidding, right?
Isn't that funny? Yeah, 5 years. This one, we got to move along quickly, yes.
Yeah, we got to get this done. We got to get the trial, or at least have the prospect of a trial looming out there. Mm-hmm. They want to do this. They want to hurt Donald Trump as much as they possibly can. And look, I still maintain, no, these charges never should have been brought, but at some point, one of these is going to result in a conviction. I mean, especially if you're trying the case in D.C., come on, man. I mean, where are you going to find anybody who has any sort of sympathetic ear towards Donald Trump, much less a neutral one? I mean, that's one of the reasons why there's generally not been a push to ever seriously consider prosecuting a former president, because where do you find any impartial juror or jury?
Right.
How is that possible?
Mm-hmm.
You can't. You got like the most famous guy in the world.
Yeah,
that's going on trial here, but again, it's not really about seeking justice or anything else. It's about trying to make a point. If you push back against the D.C. machine, if you make a mockery of Bushwood, We will absolutely make your life a living hell. That's what they have told Donald Trump and anybody else who wants to try to do the same thing.
Nice Bushwood reference, by the way.
Well, yeah, that was the whole thing, is Donald Trump was Rodney Dangerfield in Caddyshack, right?
Right.
He's like, this place is a dump. I might buy it, Meanwhile, on a lighter note, apparently most pet owners say they would probably do about anything for their pet.
Yeah.
In a survey of pet owners, 58% of people say that they would donate a kidney to a pet if they could. Now, there are not any human-to-pet kidney transplants. That's not a thing that happens.
Yeah, right.
But, but apparently 58% say they would if they could. Would you donate a kidney to a kitty
To
cat?
my cat? Jeez, if I want to sound terrible if I say no, because my cat wouldn't donate one to me.
No, and
I can guarantee you that.
I don't feel like it's terrible to say that, because if you're going to donate a kidney, why not do it to like a 6-year-old little Timmy or something who's
that's true.
Wants just to play soccer next year.
All right, if you cats are listening, you're on your own.
Yep,
Sorry.
absolutely, the cats are on their own.
On your own.
This is the Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show.
Are you ready?
Jamie Markley, David Van Camp, and Scott Robbins.
We just become best friends. Yep.
Making sense of it all.
Now I get it.
And having some fun.
Lighten up, Francis.
This is the Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show.
The Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. I'm David Van Camp. There's Scott Robbins. Jamie Markley is out today. He'll be back on Monday. Boy, you miss a little, you miss a lot, huh?
Yeah.
Over the break, in the last few minutes, 6 minutes or so, Tucker Carlson has dropped a new episode of his Twitter show. And you know what it is?
No.
It's an interview with Devin Archer.
Really?
Devin Archer, Hunter Biden's business associate. Now, we are working feverishly to go through it. It's about 12 minutes long. And we are working feverishly to get through some of the clips. Okay?
Yeah.
Holy mackerel, is this not a huge get for a guy whose career was supposedly over because he got the boot from Fox News. All right, so I got one clip here that we can play. Again, Devin Archer is the former business associate and friend of Hunter Biden, who has dropped the bombshell that, Joe was kind of involved in Hunter's business dealings. Because of course he was.
Yep.
All right, here is the first clip that I have turned around here.
So you worked with Hunter Biden in a bunch of different businesses. What were the specific skills that he brought to clients?
Well, at the end of the day, he had a career in Washington, graduated Yale Law School, and had a very big network in D.C., and brought that know-how and understanding of D.C. and ultimately the Biden brand.
The Biden brand, ultimately.
Yeah, we've heard a lot about the Biden brand recently.
Yeah, the Biden brand, you got access to, at the time, the second most powerful man in the world. The vice president at the time. This is incredible. I cannot wait to get to more of this. I mean, we can just start rolling it if you want, because I'm incredibly interested. I know
I am now.
We got a
now
couple
I'm
of guys going through this right now to turn around interviews here, but again,
I'm sucked into it now.
Yeah, from Tucker Carlson here. We'll just go ahead and try to pick this up here as it rolls along. As soon as this computer decides to, actually start working for me. Here we go.
What were the specific skills that he brought to clients?
Well, at the end of the day, he had a career in Washington, graduated Yale Law School, and had a very big network in D.C., and brought that know-how and understanding of D.C. and ultimately the Biden brand.
The know-how, so as far as I could tell, he wasn't doing legal work.
Correct.
He wasn't in the counsel's office at Burisma, right?
No.
So the network and the Biden brand sounds like the kind of key component of
absolutely
what he was bringing.
Yep.
Do you think that he would have been in those businesses, not having a business background, without his father being in a government position?
It's hard to speculate in those regards. I mean, I think when we initially met and he talked about his advisory business, his business that needed to transition from lobbying to advisory and the interest in private equity, it seemed, it seemed like a new and interesting network for us to expand our business. Whether he could have, been in that position, it's hard for me to speculate. But obviously, the brand of Biden, adds a lot of power when your dad's the vice president.
For sure. And there was a time, maybe 10 years ago, when private equity, maybe like AI now, was just one of those terms people were throwing out. I'm in private equity.
Right.
But the mechanics, having done it, coming from a business background yourself, are kind of complex.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's a complex business. Takes years of training. But again, the initial idea around the business that they were going to provide, the government insight and an additional network to raise capital and then, deal with regulatory issues that you might have at the corporate level.
Right. Regulatory issues.
Exactly.
Okay. So that would be more his area.
Right. That would be his space.
Right. But did he have a sophisticated understanding of regulation, do you think?
I think that he led a team that had a sophisticated.
Again, this is Tucker Carlson interviewing Devin Archer, the business associate of Hunter Biden. Wow, man. Yeah, I mean, he led a team of people that knew it.
Yeah,
I mean, of course, the whole thing was that his last name was Biden, and even the people in Ukraine who were working with him at Burisma were saying, no, Hunter Biden's dumb, but the reason why we had him on the board was because, well, he could give us access to the U.S. government, to the federal government.
Of course.
What talking about? All right. We can air a little bit more of this. Again, this is Tucker Carlson on Twitter. So if you're on Twitter, you can check this out whenever you're around your phone or your computer. But I just find this fascinating right now.
I lived in Washington a long time, around a lot of regulation. Also, a very complex area.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you got to be an expert in knowing the guy, and he was the guy that was the expert in knowing the guy.
He was an expert in knowing the guy.
Right.
And who was the guy he knew?
Well, he knew a lot of people, but obviously there was some familiar, his brother, his father, some of his father's siblings. So he knew a lot of people. And obviously I know you're pointing to, the father being the key relationship.
Well, no, I'm just trying to get a sense of, Washington's not a money town.
Right.
People aren't in business in Washington for the most part, and most people don't have business skills that I've noticed in 30 years of living there. So really the business of Washington is selling access. That's what it looked like to me.
Yes.
Not just Hunter Biden, but
I think that's one of the core misconceptions. I mean, it seems like when understanding a regulatory environment means selling access at the end of the day. That's how I interpret it. And I think that's how most people on Wall Street, whether they admit it or not, interpret it.
Yeah. So we've got a complex business that intersects with government. We need a guy who knows it.
Right. How do I, deal with getting a guy a visa that needs to come over for a business deal? Right. Call our lobbyist that knows the guy in DHS or used to work in DHS or, in Customs and Border Patrol or the people at the embassy and state. They might be able to help. So there are very tactical elements that are regulatory and compliance and governance that you have to go through, and you got to know the guy that worked at the old agency that now has the lobbying firm that can go back to the agency and get things put to the front of the line.
So the reason I'm asking this is because it's not to give the Bidens a pass, hardly, but when people say, well, there's some question about whether Hunter was trading on his father's name, if you live in Washington, that's the whole city right there.
Right. I think you know the answer to that. At the end of the day,
so
he had the best advantage to do that because of where he was. And, we thought that when we went into business, this was a great opportunity for us.
Yeah, great opportunity to bring on Biden's kid.
Yeah.
I like the frankness.
Oh, yeah.
That he's just sitting there and, kind of apologetic, that's just kind of the way things are done. Everybody knows it. And I think to me, the story, yes, I think involves potential, and I think it's pretty well demonstrated, corruption on the part of Joe Biden. But the bigger story, taking a step back, that Tucker is getting to in this interview is that it's everybody in Washington, D.C. The most powerful people in the nation's capital are all about doing favors for one another. It's not about you and me. It's not about a farmer in Iowa. It's not about anything else other than how can you benefit me? And that's it.
Well, yeah. I mean, when I think about this, I think about my own personal crazy days at Top 40 Radio.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knew what was going on. Everybody knew that there were certain things being done to get people to play certain records, right? We knew. Everybody knew what was going on. Everybody did. Now, at what extent they played the game was totally up to them. But there were guys playing the game all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's just the way. That was business. That's how it worked. I mean, and I think that's true in a lot of different businesses. But in this case, we're talking about government. We're talking about them actually creating things that are bad for you because they get something in return.
Yeah.
I mean, it's filthy. It's so dirty.
Well,
they talk about draining the swamp. I don't know if that's possible.
No, and I think
it's so entrenched now.
Well, I think what you got to do, and I know Trump has mentioned this, DeSantis has mentioned this, it's you get the administrative state, the deep state, whatever you want to call it, the all the departments that make up the federal government, you decentralize them.
Yeah.
Take them out of D.C. And it reminds me of after Trump won the election in 2016. Chuck Todd on NBC News made a joke about how mainstream media, especially Washington and New York media, missed a lot of things about what the general feeling was in America. Mm-hmm. And he had made the joke that, well, maybe we need to start having, maybe NBC News needs to invest in a Des Moines bureau. And, for him, it was this elitist sort of, kind of thing. But I'm sitting here going, yeah, you probably should.
You should.
I mean, I know you like the access and the proximity to power, but let's dismantle that. Let's get all of these halls of power out of the Washington, D.C. area. But you're right. I don't know if it's possible. There are so many people entrenched in that.
And they would have so many legal challenges being mounted against them.
Oh, sure.
I mean, it would be ridiculous. And again, I don't know how you could do it, but I'd be willing to try.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be willing to try. But also, these reporters and news people who circle around that area also have access to certain things.
Yeah.
If I mean, this is going on all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason that they're mouthpiece for the current administration.
Yeah.
They have access to people. They have access to people. They have access to things. They get to go to all the cool cocktail parties.
Mm-hmm.
They have access to whatever Congress critter they want or senator or whatever. They could do that. I mean, everybody's jockeying for position, but they have the lead in that.
Yeah.
It's back scratching stuff, man.
All right, there's a lot more to get to from this interview with Devin Archer, and we'll bring you the updates on that and anything else that comes up. And that's kind of the story to me right now is that Devin Archer has done this interview with Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
We'll get some more highlights from that coming up in a minute. And another news update. This is the Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. The Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. I'm David Van Camp. There's Scott Robbins. Jamie Markley is out. He'll be back on Monday. Boy, we are going to be having to dig into this a lot for the rest of the show today and a lot tomorrow. But Tucker Carlson has released a new episode of Tucker on Twitter, and it is an interview with Devin Archer, the business associate of Hunter Biden, who testified in a closed-door hearing in D.C. earlier this week. Now, there's a lot of spin happening with Democrats right now. We've heard, of course, they just talked about the weather. Joe Biden didn't even know who was on the line when, Hunter would call him up and put him on speakerphone with all of the prospective investors and whatnot, trying to close the deal. Joe just didn't know. He just wanted to talk about the weather, right?
Yeah.
Well, Tucker gets to the heart of this with Devin Archer. And I want to say this. Devin Archer is not, it doesn't appear to be at least, going both barrels against the Bidens. He is kind of tiptoeing along a very fine line in describing what it is. perhaps because he'd be implicated in whatever happens with the Bidens. I don't know that. That's just speculation purely on my part. But also he was friends with Hunter, so, probably still not willing to totally throw him under the bus. But this is remarkable. Tucker gets to the heart of the issue here by saying, well, come on, Joe knew what was happening, right? You had to know at least.
I mean, he must have understood that was kind of what his son was selling.
Well, that's hard for me to speculate on that.
But I guess my question, just to keep it to the facts, Joe Biden, then the sitting vice president, knew that there were Hunter's business associates in the room.
Yeah, I think I could definitively say at particular dinners or meetings, he knew there were business associates, and or if I was there, I was a business associate too. So I think, or if, any of the other colleagues from the DC office or the New York office were there. So yeah, at times there were. From the, to be, completely clear on the calls, I don't know if it was an orchestrated call in or not. It certainly was powerful though, because, if you're sitting with a foreign business person and you hear the vice president's voice, that's prize enough. I mean, that's pretty impactful stuff for anyone in the world.
Yeah. I don't know if they were orchestrated beforehand or whatnot.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
He wants to say it, but he won't.
Yeah. I just don't believe that you would call your dad out of the blue and say, hey, by the way, I'm here with a Chinese businessman. Why don't you say hello?
Right.
No, I mean, Joe's waiting for the call. Everybody knows that. At least if you're willing to sort of step back and look at this for what it is. Man, it is... there are a few other clips I want to get to, and we'll if we have time, we'll get to this. I do want to talk a little bit about the Trump indictment, because I'm loving the takes that I'm seeing come out, because Trump's been indicted again, this time for his claims of voter fraud and his attempts to get state legislatures and whootot to find fraudulent votes, rectify vote counts, et cetera, things like that. Whoopi Goldberg on The View had a remarkable take. And it's this is why people fought World War II.
What?
Yeah, listen to this.
Really, this is really sad. This is a really sad time in this country, because I don't think anybody, even the oldest person in this room, can ever remember anything like this ever happening in the United States of America, because we sent our grandfathers went to fight in World War I and World War II, great-grandfathers, to ensure this kind of thing did not happen here.
Well,
so it's sad.
Criminal investigation in U.S. history.
Yeah, say that one more time.
It's the largest criminal investigation in U.S. history. Can you imagine that? And now Trump is part of it. I mean,
we're living it.
It really is something.
That makes no sense. That's not why anybody fought in World War II or especially not World War I. What is that?
Right.
What does that even mean?
Well, you're not talking about Rhodes Scholars here.
No, you're not.
Okay.
No, but they are ABC News anchors.
Yeah, well, yeah, according to the official bio.
Yeah,
yes.
they're under the banner of ABC News.
Yep.
They're like, yes, obviously this is why our grandfathers fought in World War II. Yes, of course. Ridiculous. This is the Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins show. Biggest story of the day just turned on a dime. Devin Archer did an interview with Tucker Carlson for the Tucker Carlson on Twitter show. And we got a couple more clips to get to here coming up in the next few minutes. Man, it is just, again, it's interesting how Devin Archer does not come across, to me at least, as somebody who is bitter about a falling out with Hunter Biden or the Bidens. No. Doesn't come across as somebody particularly vengeful. He's just telling his story.
Right.
That to me tells me at least that there's a whole hell of a lot more that guy knows or somebody else knows. If you're trying to walk that fine line when it comes to talking about the Bidens. We'll get to another clip of that coming up. The Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins show. I'm David Van Camp. There is Scott Robbins. Jamie Markley is on special assignment. We got the big trifecta coming up in just a few moments. But man, about half an hour ago, Tucker Carlson just dropped a bit of a bombshell. He got an interview with Devin Archer. the business associate, former best friend of Hunter Biden.
Who just got done with his big testimony in D.C.
Right, about Joe Biden's involvement in Hunter's business. And
yes.
I think it's fascinating because Devin Archer is not, he doesn't come across as somebody who is spiteful, who's going after the Bidens because of some rift that they had a few years ago. And in fact, I think it's kind of treating this as respectfully as possible. And to me, the other fascinating part is that Tucker Carlson was the guy who got the interview with him. That did CNN not even bother to call him, or like what happened here?
I don't know.
It's remarkable that Tucker Carlson's like the one guy who said, "Hey, let's try to talk to Devin. I wonder if he'll speak to us." But so the central question here with these phone calls that Joe Biden was in on, where Hunter Biden's having a business meeting, and then he calls up his dad and puts him on speakerphone with all of these clients. You've heard a lot of people on the left and in media saying, well, that was normal. I mean, we had, some disgusting takes that, well, Joe Biden wasn't going to hang up on his son because Beau Biden had just passed away.
Right. That's what
just dumb.
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody knows why Joe Biden was put on the line. It was to close the deal. It was, hey, look, you need something figured out. My dad's the vice president. And the question is, how aware was Joe Biden about this? Was he in on this? Was this orchestrated? Now, Devin Archer says, I don't know if this was orchestrated ahead of time, but obviously, yes, this was a very powerful way of conducting business because, well, if you can demonstrate that you're in good with the vice president, boy, a lot of people are very interested in doing business with you, especially people from other countries are very, very interested in that. And Tucker, I think, asked it in a very interesting way about the arrangement that Joe and Hunter had with these phone calls.
I've got a lot of kids. I'm very close to them, talk to them every day.
Yeah.
Never called them on speaker during a business meeting. That's weird. You've got a lot of kids. You're close to them. Do you call them on speaker during business meetings?
Do I call?
I mean, what is that? A grown man calling his dad on a speakerphone during a business meeting?
Right. And to be clear, sometimes it was the call was coming in and the speaker would go on. So it's just the president. You have to be. I mean, you understand DC, right? So the power to have that access and that conversation, and it's not in a scheduled conference call, and it's a part of your family. That's like the pinnacle of power in D.C.
100%. I guess I'm pivoting against the lie that I'm hearing people tell with a straight face. Congressman Goldman, for example, that we don't really know what was going on. Really? You're taking a call from the vice president and you put it on speaker. It's not just, hey, Dad, I'm in a meeting with some buddies.
Right.
It's let me put my dad, the vice president, on speaker.
Yeah. Yep. In the rear view, it's an abuse of soft power, I'd say.
An abuse of soft power.
Soft power, yeah.
So I think it's also significant that he says that sometimes the calls were coming in. Now, do you really think that, let's say it's 8:30 at night, your son's out doing something, you really think that Joe just happened to be thinking of Hunter and called him in and said, hey, son, I really want to talk about the weather. Have you seen it? Have you seen the temperature right now in Des Moines? Man, it's frigid. I've been watching the Weather Channel.
It's crazy.
I've been watching the Weather Channel on a loop, and man, oh, did you see? There's also a tropical disturbance happening.
You know damn good and well what was going on.
Of course,
stop playing games with this. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that without explicitly saying it, that kind of confirms to me that there was an arrangement that, hey, Dad, you got to call me at 8:45 or whatever.
Yeah, you got to call me between 8:45 and 9 o'clock. I'm going to be with some people, and I would love for them to hear your voice.
A lot of people have done this. I've done this. I'm not necessarily proud of it, but I've done this where maybe I'm going to a meeting that I don't really want to be a part of, or I'm at a party that I don't really want to go to, and you tell a buddy of yours or somebody, hey, okay, listen, call me. And if I say, oh, yeah, I'm having a great time, then just start yelling on the phone. And I'll hang up and say, oh, my gosh, I got to go.
Right.
But if I say, yeah, I'm okay, then I'm fine. Right. Yeah. We've all had the person, right, or not, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us have had that person who's sort of your parachute.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you got kids, it's an automatic get out of jail free card, right?
Right, exactly.
One of the kids, sitter just called. Kids are sick. I got to go home.
Daycare called.
Yeah.
Kids thrown up.
What am I going to do? What am I going to do?
Probably just one of those 2-hour bugs.
That's it. Enough for me to go pick them up and take them to McDonald's. So
sorry, I got to miss the staff meeting today.
Yeah, darn it.
Yeah,
Gosh dang it.
I was really
want to
looking
be
forward.
there.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to seeing what the fiscal year outlook was and all of that. But yeah, dang. You know, come on, man.
Everybody knows. Everybody knows. This is so goofy. We're playing this game. I mean, everybody, the guy, Hunter Biden, and I thought it was interesting that the judge told him to get a job. He doesn't have any idea what a real job even is.
Oh no,
never had one.
If it's not selling access to his dad, then what does he have?
That was his job.
All right, that was his full-time job, and you'll never be able to convince me that Joe didn't benefit from it.
Yeah,
I mean, how did Joe become a multimillionaire?
Well, we know that too, but it's all these things.
And again, the broader story, aside from the here and now immediacy of it, with regards to the current sitting president, is really hearing Devin Archer describe that this is just how Washington works. I mean, we all know that, but it's interesting to me to hear somebody on the inside absolutely say, yeah, a lot of deals get done because, well, people are looking out for themselves.
That's right.
It's not about you, the taxpayer.
No.
You know, if you benefit, great, whatever. But really, the goal is to make sure that contracts get signed.
It's never really been about you. No.
Yeah, that I get to pad my bank account.
Yes.
That's what it's all about, always.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's a real shame that this is where we are in this country. All right, you ready for your big trifecta?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right,
Let's
here
go.
We go.
Are you ready?
1, 2, buckle my shoe.
It's the 3 most important news stories of the day.
I hit the trifecta.
Well, at least according to Scott Robbins. It's the trifecta on the Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show.
All right, it's the trifecta, top 3 stories of the day, according to Scott Robbins. We count them down 3 to 1, the way Casey Kasem taught us. Of course, Casey Kasem usually along for the ride, but he vacations with Jamie Markley. Either that or he just doesn't like me. I don't know. We did have a rough falling out a few years ago. So anyway, we'll start at number 3. Scott, number 3, Cori Bush, far-left representative out of St. Louis, just got called out, and it's a fascinating story.
It really is. It's not every day you run across a story like this either about this man tweeted out to Cori Bush after she tweeted about being unhoused and babbled on about introducing some socialist Marxist nonsense about the unhoused Bill of Rights. Now, she's run this up the flagpole before, and it got no traction, but she wants to do it again because America is evil and racist. We know that. So Cori tweeted out, I know what it's like to be unhoused. I once lived in my car with my 2 kids. No one should have to experience that. That's why I've reintroduced the unhoused Bill of Rights. Okay. Well, just so happens, a guy by the name of Jimmy Swanson tweeted back, hey, you once lived in my parents' home in Hazelwood, Missouri. You stopped paying rent for almost 2 years. It was a conservative Christian Army serviceman that helped you for quite some time. Do you ever talk about that, or have you ever thanked my dad for his charitable support? Crickets on the other end.
Yeah.
Jimmy wanted to text back, wanted to send another tweet out saying, hey, I just called my dad. I stand corrected. It was only 1 year. My dad pulled out the rental contract and a notice to vacate to confirm. It was the longest year of my family's life. He was a single homeowner who was on duty and ordered to Maryland, causing my family to rent their first home. It was terrible. My dad wanted to keep you in that house until your kids were out of school. And he did. You didn't pay a dime for it.
Wow.
Now, Cori Bush has not responded to this yet. By the way, a white guy, military guy, he owned a piece of property, one house, that he was renting out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was to her, and she just didn't bother to pay the rent.
Oh, well.
And he didn't boot her out, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, in that case, then it's got to, that's just going to be chalked up to reparations then.
It is something, though, how they create and fabricate these wild stories with absolutely no basis in fact at all.
Yeah.
And then it's all, everybody's out to get her. Everybody's racist. Everybody's this.
Yeah.
And this guy helped her and her family. She didn't pay any rent for a year.
Mm-hmm. Well, and now she's in Congress.
I know. Interesting. That's how that works, too.
It's wild, man.
Yeah, that
Don't ever
does.
tell me that people can't find a way to get ahead in life.
Well,
if she can do it, anyone can
Anybody
do it.
can. Yeah, definitely. I agree.
All right, it's the trifecta top 3 stories of the day, according to Scott Robbins, down to number 2. Leprosy cases on the rise in Florida.
Golly, man. The Journal for Emerging Infectious Diseases, I get the swimsuit edition, reported that cases of leprosy are on the rise in Florida, particularly Central Florida, which represents an endemic location for leprosy. Yikes, man! Travel to this area, even in the absence of other risk factors, should prompt consideration of leprosy and the appropriate clinical context. Contrary to headlines in the multiple news outlets, the CDC, though, has not issued a travel advisory for Florida. Emerging Infectious Diseases is published by the CDC, but the authors are not affiliated with the CDC. They act on their own. So everybody jumped the gun and assumed the CDC was issuing a travel advisory. They weren't. But there is leprosy rearing its head again somewhere in Florida.
Yeah, it's usually because of armadillos, right?
I think that's right.
Armadillos
Yeah.
carry leprosy.
Leprosy.
And so I know there are certain regions of Gulf Coast states where armadillos are. It's kind of like in Central Florida. I remember a story a few years ago where they said it was basically endemic. It was dug in. Leprosy was there to stay, Scott.
They say that it spreads easily, but treatment is very effective in stopping it.
Yeah, it's not. We're not talking biblical, leprosy,
leper colonies and that sort of thing, right? Yeah,
we've got treatments for it, but I would like to avoid getting leprosy. I'll tell you that.
I would too. Yeah, yeah.
I'm not sitting here going, sign me up for leprosy. But
I mean, it's something I've never thought about getting, but now that I am thinking about it, no, I don't want it. Yeah.
Been thinking about getting leprosy.
Leprosy.
Call the doctor's offices of Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins.
Stop before you wish.
Yeah. All right, it's the trifecta top 3 stories of the day, according to Scott Robbins. Down to number 1. You want to talk about what the Washington Post had to say about special counsel Jack Smith after he indicted Donald Trump again.
Well, now that Trump has been indicted on charges related to January 6th, CNN might need a cold shower after reading the Washington Post story about Smith and what he's done. Washington Post story starts this way. And again, this guy's the prosecutor, David, correct? Yes.
Yeah.
Jack Smith, 54, who has completed more than 100 triathlons, is leading the federal investigation of Donald Trump, who's been indicted. What is happening?
What does the triathlon have to do with anything? I mean, that's impressive.
They want you to know that Jack Smith has completed more than 100 triathlons.
That's, you know what, man? We need to get our voice guy to cut new liners, okay, for this show, because I want to be introduced as David Van Camp, who has eaten approximately 2,000 pounds of Taco Bell in his life. Is also a radio show host.
I'm so happy to know that about Jack Smith.
Scott Robbins, who has 103 Funko Pop dolls.
Pops, yes, in his collection. Golly, man.
Golly.
What the hell does that have to do with anything? He's a tough guy, see? He's a bad boy. He can 100 triathlons, this guy.
Jamie Markley, who drives a Toyota but still thinks that loudness is the greatest Japanese export
of all time.
Is also hosting this show. I like that. I like the idea of just giving that sort of non sequitur.
Just random, facts. Yeah, right.
Scott Robbins, who's wearing a Baltimore Orioles hat today.
Yeah, very rare that I wear the Orioles hat, but I have them all, so there you go.
I can't believe you still wear it because Major League Baseball hates you so damn much.
Yeah, I know. Everybody reminds me every day of that, by
Good.
the way.
Keep reminding Scott that Major League Baseball hates his freaking guts. That's the trifecta. We got a news update on the way. Also, Nimrod's in the news. This is the Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. The Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. I'm David Van Camp. There is Scott Robbins, Jamie Markley on special assignment. Don't have a lot of time left here to get into the details here, but Devin Archer has done an interview with Tucker Carlson, and this is just part 1 that we've been going over for the last hour or so. There will be another one dropping, evidently, in the next day or two. Devin Archer being Hunter Biden's business associate, former best friend. In less than an hour, this interview on Twitter has got almost 1 million views. Now, the way that Twitter captures views is basically you watch a certain amount of it and then it's done. So I'm not saying that almost 1 million people have watched the whole thing. But even if it's like 10% of it, within 1 hour, he's amassing that amount. I mean, this thing, and every time I refresh the page, it's more and more views, more and more eyeballs on this thing. I hope this really does manage to reach a lot of people. I think what Tucker's trying on Twitter is a fascinating thing because it is the ultimate cutting through of mainstream media. It's just, here's the interview. You judge for yourself if you want to watch it, if you want to listen to it, whatever. You get to decide what your takeaway is from it. I think this is really interesting. Can't wait to see what else he got out of this guy. All right, it's time for Nimrod's in the News.
When the going gets tough.
Damn it, this is too hard.
The dumb get dumber.
All right, Ian.
It's Nimrod's in the News on the Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show.
I love the poorly educated.
All right, 21-year-old man in Mississippi escaped from a correctional facility last August. He was doing a 7-year sentence for aggravated assault. He was going to be released last December, but after he fled the prison, he broke into a nearby home and held 3 people at gunpoint for hours. Then he stole a car from one of the hostages and crashed it. They rearrested him. Now he's been sentenced to more than 40 years after escaping.
There you go.
Well, there you go. All right. That's Nimrod's in the News.